Oh, good morning. It's so much fun getting up this early in the morning. But lately I've been tending to go to bed a little bit earlier, and my body only wants to push me to about maybe top 7 hours. It used to be 6, but hey, can't argue with an extra hour of sleep. Let's get Popeye all prepared for his simulcast. Are you ready, Robert? Okay, gotta give him time. She's still sleeping, so I'm bored. So in the morning here, have my own routine. What I do when I get up in the morning here. This is going to be not really a mixed topic, but let's talk about a couple of factors of living in the Philippines. Should it be feared to live in the Philippines? Philippines is no longer, I don't know what's going on, man. Philippines is no longer even on the list of the best places to retire. You're thinking, what the hell is happening? A lot of bad PR. Like in my town, first of all, and of course, everybody by now is aware of all they're talking about now is how this American 26-year-old, got abducted. And he was even in his own fear of living where he was. Now, let me explain something. If you live it's according to where you live. If you're the only white face in the area, you're going to bring a lot of attention to yourself. I live in a town where there's many foreigners living here, and it's not unusual for them to see a foreigner out here because there's actually many foreigners living out here. And so, that you're not going to stand out in the crowd. I don't know. There was some news that, I don't know if there was some bodies that were found on a beach or something. Is one of them him? I don't think it's been declared. But I'm going to try to make a point here about the Philippines. Personally, I think a lot of the trouble happens with expats that they actually produce their own problems out here. A lot of the trouble lies within expats. A lot of them choose to hang around in bars. That's very conducive to the possibilities of getting in fights, getting too drunk, being there at the right time or the wrong time, whatever. I don't know. It's according to what you do with your life when you actually live in the Philippines. A lot of foreigners do gravitate to bars, and we always hear there's altercations. First of all, you don't want to really live. It doesn't have to be Mindanao, and everybody talks about Mindanao. A place I've never been, and really don't want to be, to be honest with you. According to what kind of neighborhood you want to live in. I mean, right in Cebu City, there's a lot of places in there. You don't want to walk at night, certainly with, carrying your camera. Or where you stick out like a light bulb. Look, nobody's perfect, and there's always somebody out there that has a certain need to make a little cash. And generally, it is always generalized anyway, that if you're a foreigner, you got money, which is not the case all the time. But there's a generalization that goes on among Filipinos that generally, if you're a foreigner living here, that you have money, or certainly more than they do, which is not the truth. There's a lot of rich Filipinos out here. People are always talking about the poverty out here, but they don't realize that there really are Filipinos that got their shit together, that got businesses, that are basically wealthy. But what you see in the streets all the time, especially if you first come here, you say, wow. You go to a big city, you got people begging on the streets, even children, which of course in America they'd never get away with. Child labor laws are, different out here. I mean, it's not something that's unusual to see in the streets of children selling towels and whatnot. In America, you'd say, wow, that just can't be allowable. That's not acceptable. Out here, it's very common. That'll be a very common sight for you to see in any big city out here. And it doesn't have to be that. I've had children come up to me in Gilda all the time, not all the time, but with their hand out wanting money. So it's not just in the big cities. Okay, wherein the trouble really begins with a lot of expats. When they come here to the Philippines with their own attitude. What's that, Anthony? Oh, hello. Mindanao, it's safe until it isn't. Anthony says, for most foreigners, it's their naivety that get them into trouble. Yeah, you make too many assumptions that you hear that the Filipinos are the friendliest people in the world. Well, I think they're very friendly. That's been my experience, but it's really kind of a double-edged sword on that. I mean, you could live in an area that you think is very safe, but there's always one apple that spoils the bunch. Somebody who's desperate for money, and they figure, well, he's white, or doesn't have to be white, just be a foreigner. And they assume you got money, you're a pensioner. And what people make on their pensions, for example, in America that live here, generally is still more than many Filipinos will make out here as their salary for any job that they do. But you can't, I mean, in the this Elliot guy, I don't know if I forgot if it's his first name or last name, they're still talking about it. Philippines Antics is still doing a show on it. It's something about, I don't know, they found a body or some bodies over at a beach somewhere. I don't think it's been positively identified as him. But in his case, he made a lot of mistakes, actually, moving where he was, which is actually known. Now, I don't know if you people know this. Well, sometimes, politics are what gets people in trouble. And it could be their own personal politics, too. I don't know if you all know this, that my girlfriend's dad was killed. She was age 11 at the time. And what do you call that? Was it the National People's Army? Was it the NPA? He was shot and killed by, let's call it the NPA, because I believe no, it's not the NRA, the National Rifle Association, the National People's Army, I think it was. Got shot 11 times. It's very sad to know this. Of course, especially for her, she was very close to him. Why? Because he started to get involved with politics. There's a key word here, politics. Yes, that really happened when she was 11 years old. She lost her father to, let's call it the NPA, I guess it was. Very sad. And she was very close to her dad. So she's been through some shit herself, To this day, it's embedded in her mind. Losing a father at a young age like that. He was young, she was young. Just 11 years old. But I think what I mostly hear is foreigners getting into trouble all the time. Doing stupid things. And although the Philippines, I mean, it is a great place to live if you just keep your nose clean. I mean, it's like anywhere else. There's nothing that different. It's common sense too. And some foreigners, for example, can't control their liquor. They get belligerent, jealousy among Filipinos to foreigners. For example, out in a bar or something, liquor does not really do people favors. You might have a radical Filipino that doesn't like foreigners coming over there and taking their women. They might mouth off or something or say something that sparks something. It could be anything that could spark something up in a bar. That's why it's one place I never go to, because I don't drink to begin with. But if you're coming from another country and you want to spend your time in bars, that's sometimes an invitation to trouble if you can't hold your liquor. That causes a lot of problems. But coming here with a really bad attitude to this country, well, that's a catalyst to trouble. If you borrow money from somebody, you don't pay them back. And yeah, there are foreigners that borrow money from other people, then they don't pay them back, and they make enemies. Money is a big factor out here. If you borrow money from somebody, you don't pay them back. That's either Filipino to Filipino or Filipino to foreigner or foreigner to Filipino. That's a danger factor there, because money is a big, big factor out here where there's been murders over that. There's been people getting the shit beat out of them because of that. People have to live and they have to eat. So if you owe somebody money and you don't pay them, they might get a little bit unhappy about that. But that's just like one example. Attitude is a certain thing too. Attitude. It's a good question, Stephen. No, I really haven't. Not really. No. Maybe because where I live, there's not a lot of crime. There's not a lot of crime where I live, actually. I mean, there was a concern once, but they were kids. But when we were renting, we did have pretty much some kids. And this is I'd tell you where the fear factor comes in. According to how desperate people are, they'll come to your house right in the middle of your dinner and rip you off if they're desperate enough, if they're into drugs or something. We had, there's like, how many? 4 or 5 kids? Now, this is frightening. I've shared this story. Me and Gilda were in a bedroom watching TV one night, and my TV volume is up a little bit, and little did we know that our house was being invaded. And I'm really glad that Gilda didn't get up or something, or about to go in the other room while this was happening. But we had those jalousie windows, the glass jalousie windows. And they started to try to remove them in the front of the house, but then decided, no, let's go around the back. It's dark back there. Didn't have no lights. And there's like a room that we never used. And they proceeded to get through those jalousie windows in there, and they came in. Unfortunately, I had left a pair of shorts in there that had my wallet, and it was, I don't know how many thousand pesos in there, but they also helped themselves to meats and some food and even ice cream. They got themselves a treat too. God bless them. They took some headphones and something else. Now, they were underage. The oldest was 18, and the rest were below 18. But it was not our only house that they hit. There were, believe it or not, 4 or 5 other places that were hit. One guy lost a collection of swords, valuable swords, a collection, some laptop, things like that. This is wild. They knew somebody was home. How could you not hear the TV? I'm like half deaf, so my volume is up a little bit more than normal. Couldn't believe it. Under our noses, our house was being invaded. Now, of course, the kid, they got caught, and I met him too. Who knows what could have happened if they could have panicked or something, if Gilda or me got up and went in the room while this was going on. Who the hell knows what would have happened? Good question you asked me, Stefan. Good question. I couldn't believe it. Right under our nose. Obviously, they knew somebody was home. The TV was playing, but they still came in. Insane, isn't it? Well, they were caught, and I met up with them at the police station. And I told them right in front of the fucking police, if you ever decide to do something like that again, you got away with this. But for the protection of my fucking family, I will do whatever the hell it is to make sure that you ain't going to do it again. You should have seen me. You should have heard me. I put the fear of God in these kids. As it turned out, one of the mothers was there, the younger ones, on her knees begging because they brought in all the people who were victims. We were all in that same room. We were called over to the police station to see these teens. And she was begging on her knees, praying, please, in other words, spare him. I don't, and people had to decide that they want to press charges. I didn't wind up pressing charges. They were kids. I figured they made a mistake, but some of the others did. But the younger ones, I don't know what happened to them, but I don't think anything bad. But I think the one that was 18 years old, he might have had a record already, but he got, as an adult, because he was 18 years old. So he fucked himself over. But nobody likes being violated like that. Your home is supposed to be your safe haven. It's supposed to be. So there's no guarantee, no matter where you live, and people talk about Mindanao or the southern portion or whatever, they got red zones and all this shit. It could be anywhere. It's not just Mindanao. It's anywhere, really. But yeah, there are more areas that are unsafe than others. Okay. You're not, that's why you should research the communities you live in. But even if you research it, there's no guarantee. But I think if you're going to go rent or buy a house somewhere, you need to do a little research on the criminal history of the area, who you're living next to. Are they loud? Are they playing karaoke all the time? Are they troublesome? Are they always partying and drunk all the time? That could mean a lot of problems. Okay, but there's drugs everywhere in the Philippines, and drugs generally is the key factor in kind of meeting up with trouble with Filipinos out here with drugs. I mean, you will do desperate things when you need drugs. You will kill, maim, whatever, to get what you need if you're that desperate. That's no different than the United States. People are getting ripped off and killed and everything else, or hurt by people that are seeking money to continue their habit. No different, really. It happens everywhere. But some might say that there's a whole different level of poverty in the Philippines, but then it makes you wonder, is it really, when you see all the tent cities and all the major cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, Pennsylvania, Seattle, Washington there are tent cities, Hawaii, yes, Hawaii, all the tent cities going on, people becoming homeless, they can't afford to live and thrive anymore. The American dream, for example, has been dead now for a long time, and it's getting worse. And they all think that you get the right president in there, it's going to solve all the problems. Well, I don't care what presidents we ever had. Nobody has solved or resolved all the problems. No. No, I had at one point decided to press charges. You're just partially right. I at one point decided to press charges, but I let it go. I don't know, compassion, whatever. I shouldn't have been compassionate, to tell you the truth, no matter what age they were. You know, as long as I get back something, I don't know, I got headphones or something, I don't know, returned or whatever. But the money part, that was, the part that I wasn't happy about. I had quite a few thousand. I don't remember how much it was in my wallet. It was packed at the time. There was money in my wallet. And we're not talking about 1,000 pesos. We might be talking as much as 10 or 15 or something thousand in my wallet at the time. Yeah. And I'm going to also tell you that it wasn't the first time. Now, when I first came out here, me and Gilda stayed in, it wasn't the best place, but it was a place to just get kind of settled in until we found a better place. But we lasted there for 2 weeks, because what happened was they had this, in the bedroom, they had these cabinets to put your clothes in, the drawers, and the drawer was busted apart, and we told the owner to see if he could have that fixed. So the people they deal with, they had the keys. They had the keys, the workers, whatever. They had the keys to this house. Okay, they came up, did their work. They did, they looked at me and said, "Oh God, we have a foreigner living here." So it was 2 times, really, not once. It was twice. Same fucking thing. I had my shorts in the living area, and I had money in it like an idiot. Okay, and this one was an inside job. It was one of the workers or somebody that worked with the owner, who owned numerous properties in the area. She's pretty wealthy, owned hardware stores and, property, a lot of property. She practically owned a subdivision, really. But we figured it was an inside job. It had to be. It had to be. Yes, the tick is still in detention. It had to be an inside job. So we got out of there. And that's when we found our other place. That's when later on we got ripped off there. So even though there's not a lot of crime in our community, I didn't say there's no crime. No matter where you are, people are going to get desperate. But no, it's not a high crime area where I'm living in this town. It's not known to be. Petty theft now and then, things like that. But it's not known for being a radical area to live. It's pretty safe, actually. Overall, it's actually pretty safe. No, I had changed my mind, Sabong. And you're a troll. Why are you on my show? I'll let it be. No, I had changed my mind on that. Because I think the young kids, they really felt the gravity of what they did. And I'm sure the parents gave them enough punishment. So I lost some money, whatever. I never, got that returned, but oh well, you know. But what is scary is that in your own freaking safe haven, which is, your house is supposed to be your safe haven, that somebody comes in while you're home, you're laying in your bed, and your house is being invaded by people that shouldn't be in there. But we had good friends that, after that happened, we had several of them that actually stayed the night when it happened, laid on the couch in the living room. So yes, we do have people that care about us, that give a shit about us. We actually do. Never mind what trolls talk about. We have people that really give a shit about us out here, that are really friends, that will take concern in our concerns. It's been proven. And yeah, no, that was the update on that. I don't think these kids ever got in trouble again. They were scared shit out of their mind. They were just scared shit. And they could have been hurt themselves. According to who the foreigner is, I mean, someone comes into your house, but then you think yourself, oh God, most of them are just little kids. What are you going to do to little kids? You going to beat them up? I don't know. What do you do in a situation like that? Maybe the 18-year-old, you kick his ass, but what are you going to do? Except yell at him, get the fuck out of my house, or pick up something and scare him. But, you're not going to beat up little kids under 18 years old or something, scare them to death or try to get your property back. Or, I don't know. What do you do in a situation like that? I mean, really, it's easy to say, beat the shit out of them or something. And maybe some people would. But, and maybe you have the right to do so. They're in your territory. They're in your house. They're not on the road. They're not on the street. They're in your house. Right in your house. Which represents a danger. A danger. So what do you do in a situation like that? Hey, Jerry, what's up, man? No, talking about a really Mr. Early Bird here. Combination of what happened to that one guy who got abducted, but in general about like safety here in the Philippines. Should you feel safe out here? Where do the problems arrive or derive? Is it more of the expats that are causing trouble out here and causing a lot of mayhem and whatnot? It's a debatable topic on that, because a lot of foreigners come here with a certain attitude. Good morning, dear. Up early as usual. Yeah. I am. I'm always up early. Always up early. And you hear this all the time. Foreigners that come here with, definite attitudes. There's no question about that. They get themselves in trouble, and then they wonder why. And look, you can relate this to whatever the hell you want to relate this to. I don't give a shit. If the shoe fits, wear it. That's all I'm saying on this here. But if you come here with a takeover attitude, and that's what the Hawaiians didn't like with a lot of the mainlanders that came to Hawaii, it's like a takeover attitude. We're here, move over, bud. We're better than you, or whatever the hell it was. There was a lot of attitude problems with the mainlanders who came over into Hawaii. And yes, they got in trouble. Here in the Philippines, yeah, it's a great question when Stefan asked me, do you feel safe out here? I would say, in all honesty, for the most part, I do. For the most part, I do. But I'm still very cautious. Yeah, I got up before you, Rooster. Ha! Beat you to it. For the most part, yes, I do feel safe. For numerous reasons. Because me and my girlfriend, we have a pretty good support system out here. God damn, what happened here? It must have been really windy last night. All the clothes are off the rack. What the fuck? Yeah, we've had some blustery winds going on here, and I guess we had it overnight because we got a clothes rack against the wall out here. It's covered. And all the clothes is on the ground. Yeah, I feel pretty safe. I mean, despite what happened where we used to live, that made me do a lot of thinking and saying, "Wow, I guess it's just not safe anywhere," and you're probably really not. But I think it has to do with attitude. If you've been decent to the people, if people of community get to know you and you've been really decent to them, and they know you on a personal level, you've been in your house, you've been whatever, My girlfriend, she has so many friends out here. It's just incredible. They become my friends too in association with her. You know, we know people on different levels of business out here. Local police department. Gilda knows, has gone to events with the mayor's wife out here. We made a lot of connections out here. Actually, we did, to my surprise, because she's very likable. There's nothing unlikable about her at all. She is very approachable, smiles a lot. She's a happy person. It shows that she's happy. Her whole demeanor. I mean, she can't help but making friends. She just does. And she has so many friends out here, not just here, but in Cebu. It's amazing. She's like a magnet, and she attracts people. She really does. Now, maintaining that kind of attitude where you are approachable as a foreigner living out here, if they see that you are approachable and friendly, you're going to get better results that way instead of taking people's money or, some people come right out with it. Oh, I hate the law. I hate the law. I don't like cops. I don't like, you're setting yourself up right there. When you got an attitude problem, I mean a real attitude problem, people know. Now, in my town, you'd be surprised what people know about other people. And as I always say, I call it in, I don't know if they use that expression out here, but in Hawaii, we use that expression, the coconut wireless. Everything got around. People knew each other's business. They knew whether you were a shithead or if you were a good person. They also knew from your own, the word I like to use is demonstration. They knew from your own demonstration whether you were a good person or not. And I've heard this left and right. A lot of foreigners, and their girlfriends or wives have people come over and they meet other people and they don't just seem to be really approachable to people in the culture. They maybe don't talk much or nothing, but I do. I welcome her friends and I do talk to them. And they all know English, although, of course, many times, of course, I could be sitting around a table and they're all talking Visayan or whatever, Tagalog, and I'm like, I feel like I'm out of the loop, you know what I mean? Out of the loop. I prefer them, hey, I'm sitting here too. I mean, try to be respectable and talk English, but it's their language, man. This crazy attitude with a lot of foreigners. In fact, I remember this one goober, not to have to bring him into this. I absolutely remember this. That's how good my memory is on certain things. I remember him making a statement. I have to say this. I don't want to bring him into this. I really don't. That's not what my show is all about here. But it is in a sense when it has to do with attitude. I distinctly remember him saying that he made a really lame statement. If you want to be around me, talk English. This is not your country, goober. English is not their first language. get it in your fucking head. They can talk Tagalog, they can talk Visayan, whatever, all they want, because that's their language. English is just a second language. And I remember making this really lame statement. I have to bring this up because it relates to everything I'm talking about. It's all about attitude. Attitude. And a lame statement he made, I don't like that when they're not talking English around me. If you're going to be around me, you got to talk English. Well, maybe you should talk Visayan. Do you ever think that? Learn more than the 5 words that you know. Christ, really? You're not in America. You're in the Philippines. Mind you, if anything, you should be respectable and learn a lot more of the language. I wish I could absorb like a sponge the language more than, and I do know a little bit, but not enough to get me by. There are key words you could use, and they actually appreciate it. They appreciate foreigners that it shows a real sign of respect that you were willing enough to learn some of the language. You don't have to be fluent in the language, it's just that you could use some very simple words, Even little things like, instead of saying okay, you'll say like, sige, or thank them, or tell them that you're very welcome if they thank you for something, walang sabayan. You could talk and use certain words that show you're making a effort to speak their language, even if you can't do a complete sentence. The fact that you use any of their language, of their wordage in their language, they appreciate that because it shows that you're interested in a culture, that you're trying to learn something, even if you can't learn a lot. Because sometimes, you get older, when you're a kid, it's a lot easier. Your mind is like a sponge, and you can absorb, you can become fluent in a language from a kid if you're around other people of another language and you actually utilize some of the language, and then it builds up, and next thing you know, you're speaking the language. It starts at a younger age. It doesn't mean as an adult you can't learn, look at Bud Brown. Bud Brown was pretty damn good on the local lingo. And there's this other guy, this Bisaya guy, he calls him, what does he call himself? He's a guy with long hair. He spoke fluent. Then, of course, you have, what's his name? Becoming Filipino. And these guys, well, I'll give them that credit anyway, that they learned the language. They even made this guy an official Filipino. Anyway. It's a matter of showing respect. Frank Battaglia official channel. Get the fuck out of here. Let me pull Obama on you. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Well, if somebody's using my name, I don't know, in vain or whatever, then you're like off my show. That's good enough reason right there. But the fact is, you can't move. I don't care where it is. It don't have to be a foreign country. If you come to any place with an attitude and you got an attitude problem, you're not going to make friends. May even make enemies. Yeah, even in Hawaii, there were mainlanders that were killed. There was, they had attitude problems. Of course, drugs were always part of an issue of some sort. There was a lot of robbery in the Philippines. I remember there was an incident where somebody just walked right in the living room and just family, mainlanders, were having dinner. They were having dinner. And the drug addict was desperate enough to come in there, daylight, family having dinner. Imagine that. But when you're desperate enough, you'll do anything. What's the solution? You're going to live in the Philippines or any foreign country, really. Blend in as much as you can. Get to know wherever you're living people on a local level, and word spreads. I'll guarantee you it. They know whether or not you're a decent expat or not. They know. Like, the Coconut Wireless. They know. But they also know by demonstration, too, that they've been around you many times. They know that you're talkative with them, that you smile at them. You might have even done something nice for them, that they don't forget that. They're not going to forget if you did something nice, and they're certainly not going to forget if you did something the opposite. That's a guarantee on that. Guarantee. So you set your own future, or safety, shall I say, when you move into a neighborhood, especially in a foreign country. Yes, you have to factor in that there is poverty out here. And of course, the assumption is always made, that if you're white, you're all right as far as, monetarily, that you must have money. It's a big assumption, unfortunately, that, a lot of Filipinos think. A lot of cases, it's true that you probably do have money than a lot more people out here. You think they don't notice when you're living in a really nice house and you're buying nice appliances and they figure, boy, this guy's got money. Now, if they're true friends, they're not going to do anything to steal from you. And if you're good in the community, look, the bottom line is they are friendly people out here and they are good people out here. But there's always, a rotten apple somewhere. No matter where you live, it doesn't have to be in the Philippines. We talk about the Philippines because, just the Philippines genre, and that's what we talk about a lot. Because you're living here or you're planning to live here. But there's a lot of things you have to take in a factor, before you live here. Do some research. I mean, first of all, spend some time out here. And I did. I made a bunch of trips out here before I actually lived here. I made numerous trips before I lived out here. Get a feel of it, man. Just get the feel of it. Is this for you? Does this fit? You may initially get a little scared when you first come out here. You're in a big city. And you're seeing what seems to be a whole lot of desperate people on the streets. And there are. I mean, there's truth to that. There are. Because unfortunately, there's really not much government help for a lot of people out here. It's unfortunate. It's sad. But there really isn't. And people have to live the best they can. And I have to give credit to those that go out and they try to make a living. And whether it's in the middle of traffic carrying a case of bottled water on their shoulders, trying to sell some water, back scratchers, whatever it is, they'll come right up to your taxi or grab cab or anything and try to sell you something, food or whatever it might be. You have to give credit to those that are trying to really do something and not begging to feed their families. They're not embarrassed about what they do. It's not like in America. It's not like that. In America, you see some beggar on the street, and some people want to spit on him. That's the attitude a lot of Americans have. Get a job, whatever. Well, I think people should get a job even out here. I think people have the capability of working, but unfortunately, that's a double-edged sword because I told you there's certain qualifications, even for any minimum wage job or a fast food place, whatever. Certain things you have to do, MBI clearance, health certificate, all this. Some people don't have the money for that, So they got to live and they got to survive. So what do? Okay, maybe they're going to be on the streets. They go to a store, buy some stuff, and they have some money, double the price on it, whatever, and sell it in the streets so they could live. I give credit to the people that really try to do something honest to make a living and don't look down on these people. In America, the American attitude really sucks. If people are on food stamps, they just assume that you don't want to work. And sure, there are many Americans that are collecting welfare and everything that just don't want to work because they figure, well, free is free. If I can get a check every month to get food stamps, why work? Maybe they think I don't have that many needs. I just want to survive and have food, and the government is going to give me a fucking check. Yeah, I see a lot of that in America. Then people look down on you in a grocery store. You remember when they used to use actual paper stamps? They wasn't using cards. Oh, I've seen that happen. When people look down on you when you're using food stamps to pay for your food. And they got this attitude, get a job. This is America. You can work at a fast food place or whatever. There's no excuse. And in some situations, there is no excuse. But some people want to live off the dole. And it's their choice. They just don't want to work. They just want to sit home and get high or drunk or whatever it is they do. And you can't feel sorry for those kind of people. You just can't. And I won't. But there are circumstances that drive people to do these things. But as I said, in America, they will certainly look down on you if you're working a real menial job. But here in the Philippines, it's really the opposite. Nobody out here looks at other people. Maybe some snooty foreigners do, but amongst the population out here, they don't look down at somebody who's out there trying to make a living in some sort, whether they're selling, something, hawking something on the streets or something, whether it's maps or hand towels or whatever it might be, or water bottles. You got to give these people the credit that they're trying. They're trying. And not all these homeless people are sitting on a blanket or something or on a piece of cardboard on the street with a cup in their hands, with a paper cup, a soda cup or something, and asking for money. We see that. We do see that all the time. But we also don't know what their circumstances either. There's a lot of people who become very mentally ill that couldn't work a job. And you'll see that a lot of these people on the street, they have children with them. And you will see that all over the place in Cebu. Families are living on a piece of cardboard in an alleyway somewhere underneath the awning of a store overnight. Yes, you see that every single day in Cebu. You always see that. The VA disability gravy train in the Philippines is eye-opening. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are on disability, PTSD, whatever. Are they legitimate? I couldn't tell you that. Some of it is legitimate. So unless you know their story, you can't really knock them. If you're on some kind of a disability, maybe you have a real disability. Who's for someone else to judge you unless you know as a fact that they're not disabled, but that they could do all kinds of shit, cartwheels, they can whatever. They could fuck on a dime. People who claim disability and they really don't. The one thing about PTSD, it's hard to disprove that, they don't have it. It's easily to manipulate an evaluator that you have PTSD. It's real easy. And especially if you came out of the service, it's almost granted that they'll give you a disability. It's almost granted. You have to go through a psychological evaluation and all that stuff, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty easy to fool an evaluator on that. Now, just as a note, an important note, that we're not saying that all military people that are claiming PTSD is not true. I would think the majority of it would be true and would be believable. It's really according to what experience they had. If they were in the field, they've seen action, that makes a big difference too. If they've also got injured as a result of their time in the service, it's very believable. And it's not a military thing, PTSD. A lot of people seem to relate PTSD, well, if they were in the military. No. There's probably more PTSD on civilians than military people. It's according to what their home life is like. Are they in fear all the time of their parents? Do their parents beat them up and abuse them? You know, ever see a frightened dog that's been in a street that's been maybe abused by its owner and abandoned? And they're so scared to come up to you, it's just terrified. Just terrified. I saw this one video, I have to mention, where this dog was so abused all his life that if you even tried to put a hand out to pet it, it would scream holy terror because that dog was beaten. I didn't want to talk about it because I'm an animal lover, and I see too many little reels on Facebook and stuff that turn up and about how people abandon the dogs and burn them. They do all kinds of terrible things. It just breaks my heart. It's very hard for me to watch that kind of stuff. Very difficult for me to watch that. But sometimes out of curiosity, I do wind up watching it, you know. It just makes me feel that I feel more for the animals than I do for the fucking humans in this world. Because things are not getting better, you know. Everybody's divided, whether it's religion, politics. There's such a division in our society going on that people are not even getting along with each other anymore. Or they're disassociated with other people other than the electronic device that they're on. You know, it's very rare that it's becoming, you know, more apparent and more so happening that people socialize with people through their electronic instrument, like the one I'm on here now. You can do that, but you have to also deal with real people too, meaning in person, breath to breath, you know. Unfortunately, you see a lot of the kids, they're glued, they're gaming and whatnot, and they're not really going out playing basketball or doing activities with their friends, and everything is done on their phone. All their communication is on the phone. It's not one to one anymore. That's what adults too. Excuse me. Anyway, it's not always where you live, but the geography, really, of where you live. There are what you call danger zones out here. I mean, Harlem in New York used to be a very dangerous place to live. Now it's all developed. Things go through changes. But you have to still think and make these thought out decisions of a community that you're going to decide to live in or buy a house or rent or whatever, that you should really do a little investigation about the area you're going to live in. But to be honest, I think living in a community where you're the only white person in there is going to bring a lot of attention to yourself. That doesn't mean because you're white that you're going to be dismembered and thrown in a river or something. It's according to what you do is your attitude. You could be, well, I'm not going to say this, that's going too far. You could be in a red zone and never be in trouble. Well, you probably could be. It's really according to a circumstance. Is there a radical group or are there insurgents in the area that may want to use you as an example? So if you know that there's a possibility that the area you're going to move in are known to have insurgents, you know, radical groups and stuff, politically radical groups, maybe it's not a good idea to live in that area. Maybe you made a very poor choice of where you're going to live. Maybe that's what happened with that one young guy. I don't know what the update is. I hear people talking about something. I don't know. They found some body somewhere and they don't know if it's him or not. But chances are that, you know, he didn't make it. There's better than a good chance that He probably is dead. But he said so on his own show that he feels unsafe, that always people are coming up to him telling him to watch out, just talk about this and talk about that. And he still stayed there. He said himself, I feel like I'm in a box. I can't get out of this box. I don't feel safe. Well, he should have got out of there. Some people just really don't think. I know you're there for a woman, but it doesn't mean that you can't take this woman out of the community, or maybe that's a problem too. Sometimes, and I can't speak for Muslims, I really can't. But there are some that would like the other Muslim people in their community to stay with and marry and have children with other Muslims. That's not unusual. Even in America, some people prefer a Catholic marry a Catholic, Italian to marry an Italian, a Jewish guy to marry a Jewish woman. I mean, that's pretty common. But some people's religions are really down and serious about their practice and beliefs, as they have the right to be, and they don't always see, for example, out here, a foreigner and being Caucasian to be with an, to be with one of their Muslim villagers. Some of them do have that attitude. Not all. Some people are very accepting, but it does happen. It does happen. It's unfortunate, though, that a lot of Muslims are being targeted to be the kind of people that could do something horrible to foreigners. They're not all like that, and they shouldn't be stereotyped as such. We got Muslims living right here in town, very respectable people. And they are. But there's always going to be some radical group somewhere that they happen to be Muslim. Okay, well, they get stereotyped very easily. Oh, I wouldn't live in that town because it's full of Muslims. You mean they're full of people? Maybe good people? Muslims are not bad people. I mean, I'm not religious, but Catholics are not bad people. Muslims are not bad people. But there's always a rotten apple in the bunch somewhere, so you can't target a certain ethnic group of people as being radicals or dangerous to be around. You can't make that kind of assumption, but some people do. But nevertheless, common sense would say don't live in an area that maybe has been known to have some of those violent crimes committed on foreigners. But if you're going to be stupid enough, no matter where you live in this country, to flaunt your money in such a way and flaunt your wealth, yeah, that could invite a little bit of trouble no matter where you live out here. It doesn't have to be southern Mindanao. It could be anywhere in the Philippines, and it happens anywhere in the Philippines. It's not just a geographical thing. Anyway, it's even a little early to have breakfast. I don't even know what the hell I'm having here. I think the next time I go to Cebu, I got to come back with a shitload of food. Bring 3 free cooler chests rather than one big one. We need to stock up around here, that's for sure. As I said, and it's true, there really isn't. I mean, I'm not on a full Filipino diet here. I eat some Filipino food, of course, but and some of the food I eat is not classified as Filipino or American. It's just food, eat vegetables, whatever. But yeah, of course, when I could get a hold of my comfort foods that I like to eat, by all means. But really, when you're shopping in an area where I live, you're going to be subject to getting, well, I mean, you are in the Philippines, right? Keep that in mind. You are in the Philippines, and you're going to find a lot of what they call Filipino food on the shelves, and it's on the shelves. You already know if you've been in these stores, okay, local grocery stores, not supermarkets, and even so, I mean, I've been to Bago to Metro there, and that's nothing but a big sorry sorry store is what it really is. And in fact, sorry sorry stores will go there to get their supplies to sell in their store and just up the price, you know, and I could go and go today if I wanted to go get some food. But I know that there's only a few items in that store that I will walk out of that supermarket with. Because you got to understand, it's the Philippines. And they're going to stock food that Filipinos like to eat. They're not always going to have imported food. You may find a few items in some supermarkets, not like the big ones in, Ayala and all that places, but you'll have a better chance of finding some imported food if you want to pay the price. It's there. Not everything you need or want, but you will find something that you might find as comfort food for you as a foreigner. And I do find, but not even enough, really, not even in SNR or Landers. See, in the Philippines, you'll have to go to Landers, you'll have to go to SNR, maybe another store to really find what you want. But it was the same thing when I lived in Hawaii. I had to go to when I went shopping, I had to go to three different supermarkets, okay? Because each store sold something different that the other store didn't sell, or had certain things that are better priced than the other store, or had more boxed foods or more frozen foods, more canned foods, whatever, or a better selection of cereal, or whatever. So when I went out food shopping, it was a long morning because I would go into three separate stores. One was better on the produce prices. One was horrendous on the meat prices. I didn't go there. Target carried a lot of good stuff. Not much of any meats, really, unless they were processed meats in a cooler. But they had a lot of good canned stuff. They boxed stuff if you want to supply your cupboard. They had a fairly good frozen section in there. So I'd go there for certain things that I knew, even my Pepperidge Farm cookies that I love so much. I knew that Target always carried them, so that would always be something I'd consider when I was in the store, unless I was just burned out on them cookies. I had enough for now. Get it another time. But, then there's Walmart. Walmart didn't have the biggest selection of anything, but they did have a lot of canned foods and canned vegetables and soups and things like that. Yeah, even the cookies I liked. It was very limited what Walmart had, but you could it was able to get things at a fairer price in Walmart than you would at any other, supermarket in the area. And I found that to be true. Just didn't have a big selection in Walmart. You just didn't have a big selection. But I always walked out of Walmart with something. And whether it was an over-the-counter product, of a medicinal nature, Walmart always had great prices on stuff. And they had the generic brands called Equate. You're all familiar with that. But I had to still go to three different stores when I shopped. Because one store, I could not afford their meats at all. Another store, like Safeway, I could never afford their meats, never afford their produce at the time, or just didn't want to pay their prices. But Safeway did have a lot of products to buy there. That was what Safeway was good for, no matter how expensive they were, and they were expensive. I would definitely walk out of Safeway with a lot of food. But no, unless I really didn't feel like going to another store, I'd get a few items in the produce, but they were horrifically expensive. And, even some of their canned foods were really expensive, but the difference was they had a better variety than the other local supermarkets in the area. A better variety, but it's like, walking into SNR, you're going to pay more for any kind of imported food. Well, these foods weren't imported. Well, they were actually from the mainland. That's why the prices were high too, because they still had to import this from the mainland. But nevertheless, I buy it if I needed it. But same here. 3 different stores, same damn thing. I'd have to go to 3 different stores to probably find what I really need. You know, Metro, quite honestly, Metro markets, didn't really carry a lot that I wanted in the stores, and they've had their import section in there, and they had a small. Okay, have a good one. Be careful. They had some variety in there, but what they were charging for a lousy can of something that maybe in America you got for 50 cents, and they were charging the equivalent of like $1.50. Well, if you needed it enough, you just buy it. And a lot of times I just did that. If I need it, I'll just buy it. A lot of times I would do that. Most of the time I actually would, but there's a lot of times that I kind of snubbed my nose at the prices they were charging for something I knew damn fucking well what it would normally sell for in America. But then again, you were not in America. It's imported. And you got to keep that in mind. So you have this American diet. Well, you're going to pay for it. Instead of bitching about it, you just buy it if you need it. And I gave in to that many times. But as I said, there were certain things I just would not buy. A few times I gave in on that shitty, not the healthiest thing in the world. It's like Marie Collander's products. But I bought them if I really wanted it, because I couldn't find much else to buy. But most of the time I'd look and I'd say a pot pie, a Marie Collander's pot pie was going for about, I don't know, like $6 or something for a lousy pot pie, or even more. And I would just say, fuck this. No, I could afford to buy it, but you want your money to stretch out too when you go shopping. Of course you do. I don't care if you're rich or borderline or just comfortable, or even if you're just poor, of course, you're going to make choices on what you could buy. But yes, I would pass by certain comfort food items, saying that, look, I'd like this, I could afford it, but I just refuse to pay that much money for that item. I do that a lot of times. But my next shopping spree is going to be, fuck it. And I'm not going to care what the price is. I'm just going to buy it if I need it. Because we need to get well supplied here. We're not well supplied. We're not in Cebu every month, though it seems that way sometimes, but we're not. And usually when we're in Cebu, we will stop at some of these stores and we will bring back some supplies. But I find myself in the middle of SNR many times and thinking we're going to stock up on this and that. And I'm, what are we walking out of here with, Gilda? I'd say, what did we buy? I mean, there's really not a choice of canned food. I mean, you like to stock your cupboard with canned foods, emergency, right? SNR just does not have a variety of canned goods. They just don't. Oh, yeah, you'll find some cream corn or something like that in a can, but, they don't have a big selection. They have some soups, but they just don't have a big collection of soups and things that you'd like to put in your cupboard. Emergency, whatever. I got nothing right now, hardly in my cupboard right now. Because I haven't been shopping in a big store. And we buy day-to-days by our day-to-day needs lately. We have a chest freezer and a refrigerator that has a freezer. Everything went down until we go back to the city again. And then we stock up on some stuff. But this time, when I go back, I'm going to stock up. I don't give a fuck if it's processed. A lot of frozen foods are processed. I eat well enough, some good foods, fresh, lots of broccoli. I eat a lot of good vegetables and good foods. And at my age, I'm not giving it too much of a fuck. I have an acquaintance I talk to all the time, and he says, "I don't look. I'm not looking at the calories. I'm not looking at the cholesterol. I'm not looking at the salt. I'm just going to eat it. If I like it, I'm going to buy it. I'm not going to think about that." Well, my allergy's coming back again. It's about the right time. He don't care, and I've actually seen a lot of foreigners that think that way too. I'm going to eat and drink and smoke and whatever the hell, do whatever the hell I want to do. Enjoy my life. You only get one time around. And I do see that attitude with a lot of people. And I understand it to a point. But why do everything wrong? You got one bad habit, two bad habits, three bad habits. Maybe you smoke, drink, and overeat. That's a recipe to disaster. See, my point on this is that I understand where they're coming from on this, but you have to carry your body around, and you're the only one that has to live in your body. So if you're doing something stupid like smoking, well, which I've been, and I don't drink, thank goodness for small miracles on that too, but I will try to do things that are also good for my body, besides having a fucking addiction of fucking nicotine, which sucks. It sucks. And unfortunately, people will quit only when, with many people anyway, only when something disastrous is happening to them, their lungs or whatever. It's true. It's true. But doing good things for your body, as I said, you got to carry your body around. Do you want to live the rest of your life with aches and pains? Your whole metabolics are breaking down because of the diet. You're becoming overweight. You haven't seen your own socks in 20 years. You could live like that. Go ahead and do that. Obesity is one of the biggest problems I see with, foreigners that move out here. I'm astounded from what I see. And, as a result of being overweight, there's diabetes, there's heart problems, it's just you name it. But I can't walk up to people and say, sir, I noticed that you're extremely overweight. You're going to die soon as a result of that. You can't do that. You could educate people on your show and make suggestions to people. Keep your weight down, dude. And I've done that. Even with people like Ricky. Apparently there's no love affair with us, you know what I mean? Well, I've even advised him, you really should lose weight. Oh, does that mean you care, Frank? I really don't give a fuck. I'm just someone that likes to give good advice. That's all I can say. And it's either you take my advice or you don't. That's up to you. I only talk about things that I've learned. I figure if I can spread the good word about something, why not? Because that's who I am. That's what I do. That's what I've always done on my show. When I would talk about health issues and supplementation and diet and all that stuff. Again, I'm not perfect in my diet. I'm the first to admit it. I'm not perfect in my diet. Don't put, an ice cream bar in front of me, a certain brand. I'm going to have it. Don't bake some fresh cookies around me, because if I'm hungry for something, I'm going to want a snack. And we'll do that now and then, but it's not religiously. I don't do it religiously. But put a snack in front of me, and if I'm hungry, chance I'm going to eat that sucker. I'll have an occasional hamburger, this or that, but, temptation, the flesh is weak. It'll be very weak. And you'll give in to stuff like this, but sometimes it's not just being selfish. You got to think about the people that you're with, too. And maybe they care about you. They don't want to see you die from something. My girlfriend, she don't like the fact that I smoke. But she ain't going to go around and make demands on me that you got to fucking stop. She wishes I would. And hopefully someday I will, without waiting for something to actually happen to me. You don't want to wait till that. But I could pride myself at least saying that besides having that terribly disgusting habit, one really bad habit, I at least care about myself enough to at least do some things for myself that are considered very healthy and very necessary. You know, you get a good division of things that you do. You know, just don't do everything wrong. You know, do something right with your body so you can keep on keeping on. You can keep on getting up the next morning unless you don't give a shit about yourself. Anyway, it turned out to be kind of a multi-topic this morning, but basically having to do with what some people call insurgents and don't move here, don't move there. There's all these bad people. That's not true. It's not like that all over. There's always a handful of people that are bad apples anywhere. But I personally think it's the expats that cause a lot of trouble out here, and they can't stay out of trouble. And we know many examples of that, don't we? We certainly do. Some people just can't stop doing what they're doing. And when they get into trouble, why did I wind up in this position? Well, chances are they put themselves in that position. Chances are. So you stop complaining about why you're in that situation because you put yourself in that situation. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. Why? Why should we? I'm being serious. Why should we? You have choices to make what you do with your life, what you do with your time, how you treat other people, and what you throw out is going to come back to you. What you put out is going to come back to you. If you're an asshole to people, you're going to continue to be an asshole to people if you don't stop and change your ways. People are going to see right through you. I don't want to be around you. You're too toxic. And that's what happens. Then you get mad at yourself because maybe your life ain't working the way it is. But then you don't want to dig deep down and say, well, maybe there's a reason for that, I gotta find something here. I'm gonna be in here a few more minutes, I think. Okay, found it. So don't complain about your life in the Philippines if, you brought, possibly whatever bad attitude you had from where you came from, you brought it here to the Philippines. Don't start finger pointing and blaming other people. You're in control of what you do, your body, your thoughts, your actions. You're responsible for it. Don't blame somebody else for something that you did and you got yourself in trouble from it, If it was a real situation that you really did something, not out of revenge. And that doesn't happen, does it? No, that never happens. Doing something out of revenge is different. Calling getting even. Fuck that. So you decide to move to the Philippines, that's fine. Just do your research and behave. Just behave. Because there might be somebody that don't like your attitude. Now, of course, this could happen anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be Asia, or specifically the Philippines. But a lot of people don't use common sense. Don't walk in the Cologne market around that stuff at nighttime. And you're carrying a fucking laptop, you're carrying a camera or something. You're inviting trouble. Look, when I lived in New York and there was, when I wasn't taking a commuter train and I was taking a subway to get into the city or vice versa, if I was going to go out at night, I used to go out with my friend to particular clubs or activities. You would dress down. Late at night, and I've been on a subway, like 1 o'clock in the morning, there were times. but I wasn't alone. And you don't want to be dressed up with jewelry or looking like you got a lot of fucking money on a subway. You really don't, trust me. But some people do, and you're like a beacon. Again, a beacon. You're going to show out, and your opportunity, the chances of you getting robbed or something increases. You dress for where you are. Dress for the occasion. If you're going to be in a rough neighborhood somewhere, don't be wearing fancy clothes and expensive watches and jewelry and stuff. I mean, that's just common sense, but some people don't even have common sense with that. They're going to wear all their jewelry around. Man, that's like an invitation for like, come and rob me. Come on. Here I am. See, I got expensive rings on, expensive watch. That's just plain stupidity. Just like that kid who got abducted. Who knows actually what happened with him? Who knows? He could have flew to Cuba. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if anybody really knows. But again, it was his stupidity of deciding to move there, even if it was for a woman. Common sense. And he sensed it. He's even apparently heard it on some of the clips I've seen on his own shows. That he didn't feel safe. Okay, your natural instincts were coming in, but it wasn't just natural instincts. It was it was wording that people were telling him that you're in danger here or something. What other convincing do you need? Get out. Get out of there. Well, that didn't work out very well for him, apparently. Learn from what happened with him. The other thing that really perplexes me is that foreigners will move to this country and just hang out in a bunch of fucking bars. Fuck, you could do that in your own country. Oh, but the liquor's cheaper out here. So is one of the reasons people come out here is because the liquor's cheaper if they're an alcoholic? Yeah, I would think that's one of the possibilities. I would definitely think so. But coming out here is just to hang out in fucking bars and be surrounded by a certain element that might not be safe. You make your choices, the kind of woman you want. You come out here just to get laid and that's it. To put those notches, those proverbial notches on your belt. Yeah, I got this one this week and I got another one coming on Wednesday. What the fuck? Seriously. You come out here for that. Well, they do come out here for that. Either to get disease or to get rolled for their money. And they still continue to do it. That's the funny part. It's not funny getting rolled, or killed. Somebody robbing your money. And they decide to beat the shit out of you at the same time to get it. If you're lucky, you survive it. There's a lot of scams going on out here. As like anywhere else, but you'll see it out here. Of course you will. As good as the people are, as I said, again and again and again, there are always bad apples in the bunch. Are you getting this, Popeye? I want to make sure. Okay. Who you want to hang around with out here, that's up to you. That's up to your discretion, but seriously. Be around good people. Respect people out here, and you'll get respected back. I'll guarantee you will. And fortunately for me, I do have respect in my own community out here. That's why I'm very comfortable. Even though we got robbed once by some kids, but still, that was just a freak incident, really, for this community. Petty thief definitely happens in this community here. But you don't even hear a lot about that. You don't, really. So choose your community. Be wise. Choose your community that you want to live in. Choose it wisely. Do a little research before you actually move into a community, whether you're going to rent or buy a house, especially if you're going to buy a house. That means you're a little bit more stuck where you are for a while unless you decide to sell. But just make wise decisions all the way around as to who you associate with. And again, and I can't emphasize this more, don't get into a situation where, you know, don't be a patsy. Don't be lending out money to everybody and then hoping that you're going to get your money back and stuff. Because basically, unless you're very close to the person, you know them very well, you'll probably get paid. But a lot of the times, you're not going to get paid. And there's always going to be an excuse. My kid's got a fever, whatever. You're going to hear a lot of stories. And not to make fun of it. I mean, sometimes it's true. They do have a kid that's sick and they don't have the money. And they figure maybe that you have a little bit more money than they do. So maybe you might be approached by them. It's according to how well you know the person, how long you've known them, and you might be willing to help, certainly. And that's okay. It's good to help people. And don't have that expectation of having a return on your money, because it's just not going to happen, because that's why they want to borrow money off you. They call it borrowing, but you're never going to see it. You realize that, right? But you can be compassionate. Oh, it's possible. You can be compassionate. There's nothing wrong with being compassionate. Just don't abuse people and you won't get abused back. Keep your nose clean. And it's your choice to live out here. You're going to have to follow a certain set of rules. There's no doubt about it. Consider, and as I said, I don't care if you got an SRRV or a 13A. I don't give a shit. You weren't born here. It's not your country. So those that are boasting, I got the SSRV and all that crap, well, goody for you. You really want to go tie your money up at a bank that you can't touch, really, to get that status, a residency status. In a sense, you're all tourists out here, whatever. You were not born here. Bottom line, you weren't born here. You were flown here, like they like to say in Hawaii, when the mainlanders come here, and you see the stickers on their trucks, the locals. Born here, not flown here. That's a common decal that you'll see on many vehicles. Born here, not flown here. Definite attitude problem for sure. There's no doubt about that. And I see that all the time in Hawaii. I've seen a lot of other juicy stickers too, such as defend Hawaii, and a picture of it looks like an AK, whatever they had on their automatic weapon, which gave a very clear and concise message to those who read it. They're basically saying, I don't like mainlanders. I'm going to defend our country. Well, it's not their country. It's United States. But they don't see themselves as being Americans. And I don't even get me to go back into this sovereignty shit again. It's something that's never going to happen, ever. And they're doing very good on the dole of the government, many of them too. They're very happy with the status quo, but like anywhere else, you're going to get these radical groups, and you got them in Hawaii too. 14, 15 years of living there qualifies me as saying that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. You have to live there and live in the communities where there's Hawaiians and, all the local people born and raised, to understand the mindset of these people out there. And they're not all like that. It'd be unfair to say that they're all like that. They're not all like that. But there's a really large amount of people that have that attitude out there. And this aloha spirit is nothing more than a merchant trying to sell tourism items to some tourist. They'll speak deal. Oh, aloha, mahalo. I see it all the time out there. And, the tourists expect to hear that. They want to hear the word aloha. And locals do use that. They do. They still say aloha, the locals. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. But tourists, they want to hear that. Like when in Rome, do as the Romans, you want to get that cultural experience. You want to hear the aloha and mahalo and all that. Sometimes it made me laugh, really, because the merchants didn't give a fuck about you. And the whole ideology out here is, yeah, come to this island, come to Hawaii, spend your money, please spend your money, but then please leave. And that was the attitude. Take it from somebody who knows, who lived out there for a long time. I've seen the best and I've seen the worst of Hawaii. I've seen them both and I've experienced them both. Heavy duty attitudes. I had a lot of incidents out there that would make you feel that you're not really welcome on these islands. I don't care what you see on TV, going all the way back to Elvis Presley movies and all that. The chicks in this movie, I got news for you, weren't even fucking Hawaiian chicks. They were thin and lovely and beautiful. You know what they were? Filipinos, or a mixture of Filipino or maybe Japanese. They weren't even Hawaiian. Some of them might have had a little Hawaiian blood in them. They were not true-blooded Hawaiians, because the truth is that most native Hawaiian women were overweight. Remember all the bobbleheads people would have on their car, on the dashboard, showing this lovely-looking wahine with the flower lace on there, grass skirt. No, sorry to disappoint you and bust your bubble, but that's not what they look like, generally. Oh, there's a few exceptions out there. Oh, there absolutely is, but very few. Very few. A lot of them are very overweight and not always very attractive either. It's just a generalization that people make about Hawaii and other places. Not everything is what you think, but you got to live there and you got to find out. Just like if you want to move into a community, do a little research on it first. That's the least you could do if you plan to spend a lot of time in one particular barangay that you decide to choose to live in. Make wise choices all the way around, and you'll be happy out here. I still say that the Philippines is a good place to live. There were times I've had out here that I think that the only goddamn reason I'm out here is my Filipina. I've had my moments. When you hear so much shit going on with people and the back and forth with foreigners and locals here that you hear, and not everybody talks very kindly of the Philippines. There's a lot of attitude problems out here, but they move out here. If you don't like it that much, you get the fuck out. That's what I say. But I do like it enough to stay here, and it's not just because of my Filipina, although she's a major reason for me to be out here. If I found this place to be so unlivable, I'd try to get her to go to another Asian country with me. But I don't want to take her away from the ties she has. She has family out here and all that stuff. That's a hard thing to do and to expect of her. But all in all, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable out here. So far, I'm pretty comfortable. I expect to be. And I'm not out looking for trouble. I don't travel a lot, that's true. There's a lot of places that might be worth exploring, and I'm not dead yet, doesn't mean I won't. But I am comfortable, and that's the main thing. If you're not, you need to get out. Just like that young man, Elliot. He made a poor decision of where he decided to live. A very poor choice, actually. But don't stereotype as a whole Mindanao. That's another point that I'm making too. What, there's no good people in Mindanao? Because you hear of different incidents that happen, and they don't happen on a daily basis. By no way. You're going to get the good with the bad no matter where you live. So as a whole, you cannot say that Mindanao is a bad place to live. You just have to be cautious where you're living in Mindanao. And keep a low profile. Amongst all things to do, keep a low profile. Don't do anything stupid that's going to attract attention to yourself in a negative way. It's probably the best advice I could give anybody. And I got to get out of here. So we'll catch you guys later. Do you got it, Popeye? I want to make sure you got it. Yeah, I got to make sure. You're having your dinner by now or something, are you? What is it, about 6 o'clock or something? Oh, in fact, I got an early appointment this morning. Somebody coming over here. We'll talk about that. I better get off here and get dressed and get something to eat. So think about what I said. Is it the insurgents and things like that you got to worry about, or is it the other fucking expats? Expats are more trouble than not. I don't hang around a bunch of expats. I didn't come out here to be around a bunch of expats. I did not. Sure, I got a couple of good neighbors I really like. I don't hang around. I know expats out here. I could visit anytime I want. But they're kind of like me. They got their woman and all that stuff, and they kind of tend to kind of stay to themselves. And maybe righteously so, but